Hi, my name is Jenna McGrath, and I'm a senior at the University of Oklahoma, and I'm currently in the PIP semester. Today I'm going to be talking to y'all about the 2 lesson plans that I did for my lovely group of 2nd grade students. What went wrong, what went right, and what the reactions were, and just reflect on the overall process. I'm also going to be talking to you about how it relates to the nature of science and how I can use these lesson plans and everything that I have learned this past semester to help better me as a teacher and for my future classroom. So I hope you enjoy.
The nature of science must be taught in order to be enacted. I did this for both of my lesson plans during the PIP semester. During the first lesson plan, which was What Does a Magnet Attract?, I did this using the inform, verify, and practice procedures. I informed the students what a magnet was and then had them take a pre-assessment. After this, I taught the lesson, which verified the knowledge that they might have known or might have not known. After this, we practiced this knowledge by going back to the pre-assessment and finding out what actually did and did not attract the magnet, which was putting into practice. For my second lesson plan, I also enacted the IVP method for the nature of science. This lesson plan was over clouds. I at first asked my students to create a KWL chart in order to find out what they already knew about clouds. Most students had no idea that there were 3 main types of clouds and just knew that they were made of water. I then asked them what they wanted to learn to put in the W section of their chart. I then informed my students by showing them a video from YouTube that described the 3 main types of clouds: cirrus, stratus, and cumulus. We then went outside and I had the students write down what they saw and determine what kind of clouds were in the air, therefore verifying what they had learned. We did this for a total of 3 days. After this, my students wrote down what they had learned after making all of their observations. At the end of this lesson, we created a foldable using cotton balls to create the 3 main types of clouds, which was their practice. I next needed to make sure that both of my lesson plans were age appropriate. My first lesson plan over magnets aligned with the NGSS standard 2-PS1-2, which is analyzing data obtained from testing different materials to determine which materials have properties that are best suited for an intended purpose. This aligned perfectly with magnets that were going to be tested. My second lesson plan over clouds aligned with NGSS standard 2-ESS2-3, which was obtaining information to identify where water is found on Earth and that it can be a solid or liquid, or in my case, gas. My teacher wanted me to teach my lesson over clouds and informed me that this was the perfect standard that she wanted to align it with. According to the Piagetian theory of concrete operations, in the concrete operational stage, the child has the ability to develop logical thought about an object if they are able to manipulate it. The students were able to do this in the first lesson plan by physically testing if an object was magnetic or not. They were able to do this in the second lesson over clouds by observing the clouds over a 3-day period and finally creating their own foldable for the 3 types of clouds.
Next, we will move on to the assessment portion of my lesson plans that I did with my 2nd grade students. I engaged, explored, explained, elaborated, and evaluated with all of my lesson plans for the 5 E's. For the engaged portion, students were asked to give an example of what he or she already knew about magnets. This could be even something they remembered from the formative assessment they were given the day before. After thinking it over and constructing answers, they were asked what they wanted to learn about magnets. They were then asked to fill out a KWL chart provided. For this part, I used the facts number 32 KWL variations. The next part was explore. I asked my students to create a 4 corners type of simulation, except with only 2 sides. I flashed on the overhead an object that could or could not be attracted by a magnet. One side of the room went to attract, and the other side went to the other. For this, I used fact number 19, 4 corners, except I edited it for my situation. The next part of for the 5 E's was explain. For this part, I used the overhead to show students if they were right or wrong in their hypothesis about which objects were attracted to magnets. They observed if they were right or wrong about the size of the room they went on. This was number 12, fact, explanation, analysis. Next was elaborate. Students were then asked again to take their assessment they were given the previous day to see if they better understood what a magnet did and did not attract. After reviewing the answers as a class, hopefully, and they did, obtain a better understanding of what a magnet did and did not attract. For this one, I used a number 30 justified lifts from the facts book. And finally, we evaluated. The students were asked to create their own list of household items that they could use on a daily basis for magnets. They put stuff like refrigerators, whiteboards that they could use to attract magnets, and so on and so forth. We then shared these answers as a class. This fact that we used for this was number 40, which was Partner Speaks. For my second lesson plan over clouds, I also asked my students to create a KWL chart in order to find out what they already knew about clouds for the engaged portion of my lesson. This used number 32 KWL charts from the facts list. Most students had no idea that there were 3 main types of clouds and just knew that they were made of water. I then asked them what they wanted to learn out of the W section of their chart. I then informed my students by showing them a video from YouTube that described the main types of clouds: cirrus, stratus, and cumulus. For the explore portion, we went outside and I had the students write down what they saw and determine what kind of clouds were in the air, therefore verifying what they had learned. They spoke with partners and compared answers from their KWL charts, which used number 40, Partner Speaks, from the facts list. We did this for a total of 3 days. After this, my students wrote down what they had learned after making all their observations. For the explain portion, I showed a few examples of clouds on the overhead, and the students had to tell what type of cloud it was and why, therefore using fact number 12, explanation analysis. To elaborate, students create a foldable using cotton balls to create the 3 main types of clouds. To evaluate my students, they made a list of what clouds would be like when it was rainy, sunny, and overcast. The reaction of my students and cooperating teacher was amazing for the first lesson plan over magnets. Although the students did get a little stir crazy at one point and it was hard to control them, overall they learned a lot, worked hard, and had a lot of fun. The students were able to notice 4 out of the 15 objects on the list that were magnetic, which included a can lid that was steel, metal washer, paper clip, and steel nail that was gray. Although some students still had trouble with believing the aluminum gray nail was magnetic as well as the paper fastener, there was a significant improvement in those who understood that these objects were not as magnetic as shown on the chart. I believe that after this lesson, the children are on a higher level of thinking with their knowledge of what a magnet attracts. Ms. Riley, my cooperating teacher, even said she wanted to use this lesson in the future. My second plan, I believe, went even better than my first. The students loved going out and observing the clouds on a daily basis. They would even come up to me at recess and say, Miss McGrath, look, those are cirrus clouds because they are wispy and light. It really felt great to know that the children were actually learning and comprehending the material. My coordinating teacher had never even seen the cotton balls we used to create clouds and even decided that she wanted to put the foldables made from these in the students' end of the year portfolios. It felt great to know that all my hard work had paid off. Overall, both of the lesson plans were a success. As a result of the lesson plan over magnets, I learned quite a bit. First, I learned how much of a difference one lesson plan can make in a student's life. I could not believe how quickly my students grasped onto the concept of what is and is not a magnet just after one lesson. It was truly amazing to witness a child learn something new. Second, I learned that pre-assessments are an awesome way to analyze how you can alter your lesson to fit the student's academic needs. Through the pre-assessment, I was able to determine what key concepts I needed to focus on, which students may have needed more help with grasping the concepts, and much more. If I was to change one thing from my lesson, it would be breaking up the sections better so my students did not get so stir crazy. I could do this by performing brain breaks between transitions. I will definitely be using pre- and post-assessments in my future classroom, and I can not wait to bring what I've learned from this experience with me out in the field again. As a result of my cloud lesson plan, I once again learned quite a bit. First, I learned that it is great to spread out a lesson plan over a few days and have the students collect data little by little. The students became very engaged this way, and since my students have trouble paying attention inside the classroom, it was nice to go outside and watch them absorb knowledge in that environment. I also learned that adding in art with science is a great way to engage the students and have their brains work in a way it's not used to. The students loved creating cloud foldables using cotton balls. They found it was a great way to end up this lesson. If I was to change one thing about this lesson plan, it would be to have the students partner up before they went outside to observe the clouds. It was a bit chaotic when I did not do this before going outside. I will definitely be using what I learned from this clouds lesson plan in my future classroom.
I hope you enjoyed my quick little iMovie about my 2 lesson plans and the nature of science and how it relates to everything and just the overall reflection of how the semester went. Y'all are going to love the PIP. I'm really excited for y'all. And I hope you enjoy everything and have a great semester. Thanks!